It's time.
It's time.
And now, it's time for Herman and Sharon.
I love you. See, I have a real long love because they shoot me, and it takes a while to shoot me. So how are you folks that are watching today?
Hello, everybody.
We,
I don't know what he's doing, but anyway.
We start out with all of this great music inside the studio when it opens, and then it just dies. It just gets so quiet in here. And I'm the kind of guy that I've got to have...
I know, you have to have noise, enthusiasm, people running around.
When she gets in my car, you know, if I'm listening to music, it's wide open. And she'll get in and she'll go, what in the, oh my goodness.
There's no way you could hear a train coming or an ambulance. I don't know how you do it.
I'm what is known as a Baptist-costal. I have a lot of pent-up energy inside of me.
You have a lot of pent-up things. Anyway,
That's right.
We've got to get right to this testimony because it's
He's
really
amazing. He's
yeah.
amazing. An amazing wife, too, he's got.
Dr. Eddie Donnally and his beautiful wife, Sandi's with us today. He was a professional horse jockey, and he became, I mean, he's got a testimony. I don't want to read all this stuff because he's got to tell you about it, but what a testimony he has.
He'll remember everything that he's ever done. So he's going to
That's right.
reveal that right here.
So we're going to meet him
but
now.
See, I had, the reason I was so attracted to this book, and you're going to have an opportunity to read this book because it is fantastic. He is a phenomenal writer. I mean, he wrote for a newspaper, got awards.
Wow.
You know, I mean, he's just filled with all kinds of abilities that God's given him. And when he heard this sound, he... Good to have you.
That's
Sandy,
great.
good to have you. All right. Does
I'm
that make
so
you
good
want to
have
climb on?
I'm ready. You got a leg up, Herman.
I love the way the guys out there, they always,
Yeah.
handle, and you
Yeah.
step in there and
Yeah.
and you get up on that horse. and I had an uncle, and we were discussing this in the green room. P.J. Bailey, great rider, made tons of money. Blew tons of money too. You know, isn't it amazing that you make tons of money fast, and you have the tendency to think, I guess, that the spigot is never going to run dry.
That's true. That's true. I was telling you, the first year I rode, I think I made more money than my father did in any 10 years of his life as being a railroad brakeman, and I did not handle it at all, as is typical.
You bought cars, lived the high life.
Oh, partied hard.
Bought lots of threads.
Had syphilis at age 18.
Yes, I mean
My goodness.
I mean that can kill you
It can.
unless you take a lot of penicillin.
I think I had 40 shots. But
In fact, I think that killed Al Capone in prison. They never dealt with it, and that they say it got into his brain. So,
it can be.
see all the history I've got?
Yeah.
It's worthless.
Well,
but
see how many things God saved me from?
That's right. That's right. Professional horse jockey, won the Eclipse Award for newspaper writing.
Yes.
Well, I mean, did you know you had that kind of gift?
Well, I always liked to write. Even when I first started being a jockey, I went to school to study journalism, and by the time I'd retired from writing, I'd probably been published by just about every major newspaper east of the Mississippi, and I stepped in a role as a publicity director at Tampa Bay Downs here in Florida. And actually, what was interesting about that is the year before I was indicted for race fixing, and they wouldn't allow me on the track. And then the next year, George Steinbrenner, who co-owned the track at the time, hired me as their publicity director.
You know, usually when I have like 6'6" guys, I have them stand up, and I stand next to them, and it makes me look like I just dropped into the floor. And this guy is the size of a jockey. My uncle was 4'11".
Yeah.
What was your?
I'm about 5'4".
So you're the height of my dad. He was. He
Yeah,
was
you got
5'4", 5'3.5".
Something like that, 5'3".
And I was telling him that I always wanted to be a jockey because my uncle, P.J. Bailey, in the 50s, was making like $100,000 a year. I asked him one time, "What do you go around 100,000 a year? All these other people are ham and eggers." You know, it's like that was his term. In other words, if you didn't make the kind of money, you're ham and egger. But I used to admire his clothes. He had custom-made shoes of all kinds of alligator, crocodile, lizard, ostrich, and different colors. And of course, he drove gorgeous Cadillacs. He had a T-Birds and a home in Forest Hill, New York. I mean, he had what looked like a movie star life.
Is that what you had?
Well, yes, it certainly was early. I mean, you're recognized in restaurants, and everybody thinks you know the name of the unknown soldier and the next horse that's going to win.
And give me a tip.
Yeah. So you develop this entourage when you're very young of people who want to be a part of your life and who are willing to supply just about anything that you would like to partake of.
Now, you were a jockey for 20 years?
I did. I rode for almost 20
That's
years.
a long
I rode
time.
about 10,000 races.
How close did you get? Because there's a lot of guys, jockeys, that fall and are paralyzed. Eddie Arcaro wasn't.
Well, I have a good friend, Ronnie Turcotte,
Yeah.
who rode Secretariat, and is a friend of mine today. As a Christian, we often talk and pray, and he rode Secretariat, the Triple Crown winner in 1972, and I know Ronnie very well, and he's now one of about 50 jockey paraplegics, made paraplegic
really?
as a result of racing accidents.
Yeah.
A lot of jockeys go in head first. I think I was, I'm like most jockeys, I'll tell you, I broke 13 bones and was very lucky, and I think of myself that way because it is extremely dangerous.
Now, I never knew this. My uncle never shared this with me. But you used a electric prod
Yeah, I was not.
in your hand.
Yeah.
And that's illegal.
Oh, highly. I could have been ruled off a lifetime.
But
if
I agree with you when you think about it. That whip is worse than that prod.
Used incorrectly, which it often is, can be.
Because you
But,
see him just beating
yeah.
that horse.
Sometimes if you hit a horse under the stomach instead of on the rump, it does really hurt a horse, cause them to sulk.
Yeah.
I would have probably won more races if I hadn't been allowed to carry the stick, probably. But as far as machines is what you're talking
Yes.
about. So,
And you had to hide that in your hand.
yeah, there's a piece in the book. I was at Churchill Downs the day before the Kentucky Derby. It's about 50,000 people in the grandstand. And I have one in my hand, and the tongue tie, which goes around a horse's tongue, fell off. Well, anyway, the trainer has to put it on in the state of Kentucky, so they had to page the trainer to come put on the tongue tie. In the meantime, I'm walking around in front of 40,000 people and cameras with
Flashing,
with
yeah.
something in my hand that could have ruled me off for a lifetime. Wow. Very scary, and I decided at that time, I don't think I need to do this again, and I didn't.
But you did it enough times before that. What was on the left side of the, so that the people on this side couldn't see it while you're racing?
Yeah, I would. Generally, I would carry my whip in my right
touch it on the
hand.
neck.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You think they still are doing that?
People ask me about, is racing crooked, and I think, I think racing is extremely well-regulated sport. It's a huge well-regulated sport. But I think anytime you have people and money, whatever the industry, whether it be banking or Wall Street or otherwise, I think you're going to have some amount of chicanery.
Yeah.
So, but I don't.
you talk about in the book though when you use that. I mean, he was like a couple of links behind, and they were gaining on you, and you pressed that prod on his neck, and man, that sucker took off.
There were a certain number of horses who learned to cheat. And it's not effective on any other horses. 95% of the horses try as hard as they can. They love to run. That's
Sure.
what they
Oh,
do.
I love
But there's a
horses,
certain
yeah.
percentage of horses that are probably smarter than others, and they learn to cheat a little bit because because it's sometimes hard for them to run. And on those kinds of horses, which are very rare, it is very effective.
When
So
did you attempt suicide?
I attempted suicide when I became a sports writer. I went through sexual trauma when my mom died when I was 5, my grandmother died when I was 12, went to live with my step-parents, my stepbrother and I had a sexual escapade and
So you
had suffered trauma.
You
Yeah.
were bisexual.
So when I divorced, which was the most painful thing in my life, I think the most traumatic thing in my life, I went into that lifestyle, and I lived that lifestyle for about 7 or 8 years. And
While you were racing?
no, this was when I was a sports writer. I wrote for the Dallas Morning News
Okay.
for 8 years, and then hosted TV shows and did a lot of things like that. And this was during that time
And
period.
then you got into cocaine, right?
I was in Houston. I went from doing my own TV show on a horse racing network and writing for the Austin American Statesman at that point, to living on the backstretch of a racetrack because of an addiction to crack cocaine. Actually, the trainer who hired me was a very famous trainer by the name of Jack Vanberg. And 7 years before, I had covered the Derby for the Dallas Morning News and covered his winning with Ali Sheba. And then 7 years later, because of addiction to crack cocaine, I wound up working for him as a groom.
So you went through a couple of divorces,
I did.
and all of that because of your lifestyle.
I just wasn't,
Marriage material.
No, I probably wasn't because of, I think when God touched my life and healed me in the jail cell and God put the right woman in front of me, Sandi, God bless her.
How'd you meet Sandi?
I met Sandi at the Los Angeles Dream Center. I came out of...
That is me. You know, Jim Baker met.
His wife there, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Lord,
right.
that's
Well,
right.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
that's
yeah.
right. He was-
I knew Jim Baker there. I went to his Bible study several times
Did
when I
you?
was there. He was there when I was there.
Yeah.
And but we were both in Bible classes, and she was getting ready to go back to New Orleans, and I was, of course, enamored with serving God, street ministry, and just whatever, doing ministry 16 hours a day. And we'd had a class, and I came home, and the class was ending. She was leaving, and I sit down in this little one room that I lived in, and God spoke to me, go back and meet this woman. And
Did you see her before? God
yeah,
spoke
yeah,
to you?
we were in class together.
Just checking.
And she kept acing all the tests, and I was a little impressed with that.
Wow.
But, so I was sitting on my bed, kind of arguing with the Holy Spirit, and finally I gave in, and we were having a kind of an after-dinner celebration at a restaurant to commemorate the end of the class, and we went to the restaurant together, and then 7 months later we were married at the Los Angeles Dream Center.
Sandi,
Yeah.
when you saw her, give me your opinion.
Well, I always say I was on my way to New Orleans and I was looking for boxes, and I found
you were leaving-
I
you
found
were
a
leaving-
husband.
Really? So you were leaving the center?
I was going to go back to New Orleans. Yeah, I was going to pack, and I had some boxes packed. You know.
So your life before the guy that you're sitting next to how was it?
Well, I was in some dark places myself, and
Well, the Dream Center. I mean,
at the Dream Center,
I mean,
previous to the Dream Center. I was.
previous. Yeah, but I mean the Dream Center. It's amazing the people that come there with a life, a formal life.
Yeah.
That I mean, Lori, I think was
It's a change.
5
Yeah.
abortions. I think she's had.
How did you
Yeah.
come to know the Lord yourself?
Well, I was in Hollywood, and I was doing some performing, and I was actually with a famous person, Don Knotts. And then there was a
Is
time.
he really funny?
Yeah.
Okay.
He thought I was funny.
Okay. Okay. He got his material from you.
Yeah,
right?
he told me.
think you're
He
funny.
said I should be the writer.
Oh,
so
my.
So anyway, I just ran into a satanic group, a cult, and I guess I was like Paul. God had to slap me down, and
Yeah.
I was on my knees praying to God to help me because they were stalking me,
Wow.
and
They meaning
the satanic cult.
Was stalking
They
her,
were
yeah.
stalking me. There were all kinds of weird things happening, supernatural, and supernaturally. And so I was on my knees in my bedroom, and I was asking God to help me. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was 1987. I remember it so clearly. And I got back on my bed, and I was crying, and all of a sudden, a light came over me, and I levitated. And I could see myself in all the mirrors, and I was
you didn't have a LSD hit, did you?
no,
Okay, just checking.
no, I was just drained from all kinds of things happening, and I thought I was going to hit the ceiling, but I was just staying quiet because I was kind of in awe and fear, and my body started shaking, and I saw a black entity leave from my feet, and then I was lowered down. It was so peaceful, and I got up, and I was just had all this adrenaline, and I felt so light. Before I felt so heavy, and now it was just, it was God. God saved me, and it was just.
So from that time,
Oh, yeah,
where did you go?
From that time, I didn't know Christianese so much and everything. So the next morning, I ran to a bookstore, and I was taken to the supernatural section, and I got a book, and I was reading about what had happened to me, and from then on, I just was searching, you know.
How did you arrive at the Dream Center?
How I was talking about doing ministry with this lady, and she had spoken about the Dream Center. So I went over there, and I first was at Hope for the Homeless Youth with Pastor Clayton, and I was helping him. And then Eric, this gentleman there, told me about the Bible class at the Dream Center.
Who was teaching?
Who was that, Pastor Bud? Was that Pastor Bud?
One of them, yeah.
Yeah, Pastor Bud Melton. And so I said, well, I'm getting ready to go back to New Orleans. And they said, well, you can do this class correspondently, too. And I said, oh, really? So it was the last class before the hiatus for the summer. And that's how I got in that class. And that was the only class I had taken right there. And I was going to take the rest back home.
So when did you meet Eddie?
Right in that class.
In the class. We met in the Bible
So your
class.
eyes locked?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
Now
you know, Herman, I wasn't exactly smitten. You know, I am now.
Yeah.
Beat me up.
See, it's a long process. You know what I mean?
Well, I was so focused. I mean, and I think this is a lesson for others too. I was so focused on God and doing His work that that was my all-consuming effort at that time.
Yeah.
And I think the lesson is when we have our eyes on God and on doing Jesus' work is the time that God puts the right person in our life.
There's a big part of your life missing here that I haven't heard about, and that's going from the guy that was living like the devil to meeting the Lord. Now, what happened in between there? How did this happen?
Well, a lot happened. I tried to commit suicide one night. This was shortly after my divorce, and I took 36 Xanax, lay down on the floor. The only reason I'm alive is because a friend of my former wife's happened to have a key to the house and happened to come that night to check on me. I would have been dead. I lived a sexual, promiscuous, same-sex included lifestyle for many years, a very dangerous lifestyle. Became addicted to crack cocaine. God healed me from an addiction to crack cocaine from one verse in the Bible. I had left Houston, where I was living, came to California to work as a groom. And before I could even get into Racetrack, I was staying in a little motel across the street. And the first night there were two people dealing.
A groom is working horses.
Yeah. I actually went from being a jockey and an Eclipse Award winner to being a groom.
To now you're just walking them.
Yeah, taking care of horses. So I wanted to get high. When I saw those drug dealers, I knew I could trade some things, and I was still coming off an addiction. Crack cocaine is a very severe addiction. The only time I was really truly addicted in my life. And I wanted to get set free, but I knew if I went back at that time, I don't think I would have ever gotten out of that. And I lay down on the floor and I asked God to help me, and He led me to go back in my car. I had a Bible in my car because I had been saved at some point. I thought I had. And got the Bible out, and I said, God, you got to show me a verse. And I opened the Bible, and it fell to Isaiah 43, and I looked up and down, and I found verse 19. It says, behold, I do you a new thing. Shall you not know it? It'll spring forth. I will make you a path in the wilderness and a river in the desert. Amen. And God spoke so deeply into my heart with that one verse that I've never seen another rock of crack cocaine. I was healed right then. Wow. But I didn't resume the kind of lifestyle. I was living on the racetrack, wanted to get out. Met a woman who was very kind to me, offered me a job. I had a lot of marketing kind of skills and worked for her company. Lived together, the wrong thing to do. And just couldn't maintain a relationship, just was far away from the Lord again. And I wound up hitting her. I thought she was with another guy. I was manic depressive. I took lithium for 7 years, took Paxil for 2 years. I've been in 2 psych wards. Wow. And I was basically mentally ill. And I hit her. The worst thing I ever did in my life. She came to Christ through this, oddly enough, and of course that's in the book. But I wound up in Los Angeles County Jail, and where I needed to be. And thought it was the end of my life. I was 50-some years old, facing a felony charge of assault. And I was shackled to another young man. I wasn't young, but a young man on the way down to a pretrial hearing. And I'd been to chapel, and a chaplain had given me a Bible. And I just felt like I needed to hold this Bible in my hand. And I got up in the middle of this bus, and it was in my back pocket, and I was shackled and chained all the way. And I had to go back and get this, and people were making fun of me on the bus and laughing at me and making fun of me. And I just knew I wanted to get this Bible in my hand, and I did. I managed to get it out. And the young man I was with, don't even know his name, we prayed for a miracle. We just said, God, do a miracle for us. And we got in this jail cell one at a time, go in to go to trial. A young man came out, 30-some years old, given 25 years for a third strike, for a misdemeanor, and he sat down and started crying. Another man who was in the church was a teaching elder in his church. The only reason he was there is because God wanted him there, but because he had been out fishing with his son. They checked his license. He had a 12-year-old warrant. He was going to walk as soon as he saw a judge. He started preaching. And then there was a big heavyset drug dealer who got up and started testifying about God and saying that a gun was put in his head a week before, and the gun misfired, and he knew God saved his life. And then I started testifying a little bit because I'd had a relationship with God and Christ with some respect.
So your life was changed there.
Well, one of the most
We only
marvelous
have
things
half-hour
happened.
shows.
Okay, one of the most marvelous things happened is that he started preaching out of James 1. Count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations. And this whole jail cell filled up with a blue metallic haze. And I think it was the Shekinah glory.
Somebody put smoke in there?
I think it was God's Shekinah glory. And everybody, Herman, everybody in this jail cell was down on their knees praying or prostrate on the floor praying. And we all stood up and held hands and asked God to come in our lives or come back in our lives. And I think God actually changed
So
my
what happened to
DNA.
your sentences?
It was like another world. It was like another dimension. It was so foreign to what I conceive now as reality.
How did you get out?
Hard to describe. Well, through another miracle. God got me out of jail. I was let go for the 16 days I served. Went immediately to the Dream Center. Been in ministry every day since.
Boom, you saw Sandi.
Oh yeah. Well, how long was that? I was there. I wasn't there very long.
Yeah.
We did a lot of street ministry together.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Just the
A
two of you?
lot.
Well, in conjunction
Yeah.
with talking about one ministry, I got to give him a plug. Hope for Homeless Youth, Pastor
Okay,
Clayton Gallagher.
I want to move on to
Okay.
the white horse idea.
Okay.
Because over here,
yeah.
right over here, you see a white horse. And that is my old buddy, Max Greiner. He is a sculptor. And I brought that down just because I had Eddie with me. And you talk about the only time a thoroughbred, white, tell the story.
Well, the white thoroughbred. Why? How much time do I have?
Well, just keep going.
Okay. The white thoroughbred, and the reason why I named the book "Ride the White Horse,"
Yeah.
a checkered jockey story of racing, rage, and redemption, is because of the white horse symbolism within the Christian world and within my world as a jockey. The farm I worked on when I first went to work, the first thoroughbred I sat on was the mother of the first white thoroughbred registered.
Yeah.
And I became development director for the Racetrack Chaplaincy
Just
of
don't
America.
get too detailed.
Okay, and I started the White Horse Award,
Okay.
which is
He's
given
a
to
writer.
a underserved racing worker. And at Churchill Downs, I think it was 2006, a man by the name of Warren Rosenthal, who started Long John Silver's, had all the white horses. Bought the farm where I worked on actually, and I convinced him to bring a white horse to the racetrack in conjunction.
Which had
with
never
that.
been done.
No,
Yeah.
no. And they put a saddle towel on the horse, faithful and true, and
Yes.
led the
Wow.
horse from the backstretch
Yeah.
around to the winner's circle.
Yeah.
While the announcer announced to 40-some thousand people there, 50-some thousand people there, what the white horse means to Christians.
Wow.
Now, what did he say?
Well, he talked about the white horse out of Revelation.
He's coming
right there.
back
He's
on a-
coming back.
yeah.
Jesus is coming back on a white horse.
Yeah.
And he
Hey,
is.
Dave, can you show that? Because Dave took a good shot of that. I mean, just get that in your head that someday, folks, so there it is right there. Look at that. And that robe was, the reason you see it red, that was dripped in blood.
Yeah.
In
Blood of
Revelations,
Christ.
Revelations, see,
1911. it
he
starts.
knows, he
knows.
knows the
Well,
reference.
I've shared it a lot. I got up and it has a
white
really
horse.
connotation.
So at
in horse
Churchill
racing.
Downs, stay on that. At Churchill Downs, the guy is talking about what Christians believe, and on the cover before the saddle goes on, the cloth over the horse is what?
Faithful and true.
On each
Faithful
on one
and
side.
One side's faithful and true.
Unbelievable. So they're hearing about what is coming in the future.
The return of Jesus on the white horse.
What are you thinking when you're hearing this?
Well, I'm thinking it's a wonderful way to share faith. It's a wonderful way to share my faith in what I believe, because it's so germane to racing because of the appearance of the white horse and all the kinds of controversy and attention on the actual white thoroughbred. And I think that's prophetic too, Herman.
Isn't that amazing?
It is.
And you have had, well, actually both of you. The reason I wanted you to tell your story and tell your story, I mean, you know, my good friend Jim Baker and Lori. I mean, look at what happened to him. Sentenced to 45 years.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't even do that to murderers.
No.
For goodness sake, because he overbuilt on a hotel, which was actually not true, and then he meets Lori, which she had gone through a life in Las Vegas and I think 5 abortions, and I mean, and they meet together like you two guys. I mean, that dream center is a miracle house.
God restores you.
It is. It's a city of refuge for
In
so many.
L.A.
Yeah, and it's a ministry boot camp. I think
Yeah.
that's what it really was for both of us. I was fortunate. I was actually with a ministry called Metro Kids, which is an inner city ministry to children. And you know, I probably should have been in a program. I just came out of jail, but God just for some reason put me in a fast track. I was actually ordained as a Foursquare pastor less than 5 years after I got out of a jail cell.
Yeah, and now you're Dr. Eddie Donnally, so you, I mean, this guy,
Dr.
this
Donnally.
guy can do anything. I want you to look in that camera, Eddie. Share Christ with somebody.
Yeah, you know, that's the real reason I wrote this book. Is it's not about me.
Look at him right in the eye.
It's about what Jesus did in my life, and Jesus performed a whole series of miracles in my life. He brought me out of same-sex promiscuity, drug abuse, mental illness, suicide attempts. I could go on and on. But my message is that Jesus can bring you out of the same thing. He is no respecter of person.
That's right.
What God did for me, He did for you. And He wants to do it for you right now.
Yes, he does.
And all you have to do is just, if you're there and you've been through any of these things and you're hurting, and there's so many hurting people out there, just say, God, help me. God, come into my life. Forgive me. Give me a new life, Lord. Lord, I pray right now for everybody who is watching who might have a friend even who is going, or an acquaintance or a relative who is going through some of those things. And I ask that if they know the Lord, I ask that you put them in their heart at this very instant, Lord, because this book is really about them, Lord. I mean, I want to testify to the household of faith, but Lord, I want to go to the hurting people and the lost people who've gone through some of the same things. So Lord, be with them. Touch them right now. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, amen and amen.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.